In the opening scene, we see an American composer by the name of Leonard Bernstein. He skillfully plays one of his wife's favorites on the piano. Leonard takes a look at the set, recording him playing the piano. The melody of the song brings back memories of his beloved wife, Felicia Montealegre. He shares his story from the early 90s when he used to be just a music teacher to young kids too when he met his wife, Felicia. In the 90s, Leonard was a young assistant conductor. He receives a call informing him that he will be conducting a concert of the New York Philharmonic Symphony Orchestra, and he's receiving the information on short notice. He jumps out of his bed and hurriedly prepares to get to the theater. He meets with Bruno on his way in and questions why he didn't get him any rehearsal with the orchestra before now, because he thought he may not be conducting. Leonard walks onto the stage and faces to the applauding audience at the Carnegie Hall. Shortly after, he starts conducting the musical. After the concert, he gets applauded, and his praises are being sung by one of the hosts. He had performed excellently well, even though he didn't get the chance to rehearse. Later, Leonard shares with his friends and fellow composers how he gets praised for an excellent performance, which he couldn't recall how he started until the end. While they are in the room chatting, the clarinetist comes to inform him that he will be rehearsing with the famous songwriter, Radzinski. Leonard decides to take some more time to quickly compose a song for a client before heading out for the rehearsals. Jerry, his friend, requests that he put in a word for him with Radzinski. Felicia, an actress in her days, gets off a bus and walks the remaining distance to where her friend Shirley and some performers are rehearsing. Shirley, who is Leonard's sister, introduces Felicia to the gang that Leonard is a part of. Leonard gets struck by her name, Montealegre. After playing the piano for the performance, he talks to Felicia privately and makes possible conclusions from her name that she's from an aristocratic European family on her mother's side and her father's Chilean. She laughs her heart out listening as he talks about her origin. Later, they both get on a bus and Felicia leads him to a stage. She intends for them to read a scene and act on it. Leonard acts as a king who is quite taken with her. Although his acting skills are very rusty, nothing compared to his amazing skills as a maestro. However, Felicia acts her lines so well that it almost feels so real to Leonard. She kisses his lips as stated in the script. The lights suddenly come on, and it reveals her father, Joseph. He informs Felicia that her practice will be much better with the lights on. Leonard greets him, but the old man isn't too concerned about him. He passes his message and heads out, leaving both of them on the stage. They stay there arguing about their success in their different sectors of the entertainment industry. Leonard reveals that if Bruno hadn't gotten sick and Radzinski snowed in upstate, he wouldn't have had his debut. He has been teaching piano to 8-year-olds, so he doesn't think that luck, talent, and determination play a vital role in their line of work. Felicia assures him that if it hadn't happened the day he conducted the orchestra, it would certainly be some other, and she's quite certain of that. As time goes by, Leonard and Felicia's careers are progressing quite well as they receive standing ovations after their shows. One day, after an amazing performance by Felicia, her friend, Shirley, suggests matching her with a married man whom she thinks might be Felicia's type. In the course of their discussion, the man whom Shirley wants to match her with approaches them with his wife. Richard kisses Felicia's hand and commends her performance, while his wife tightly wraps her hand around his arms. She pulls him up and speaks with him in a low tone, while Shirley invites Felicia to join them. Felicia reveals she won't be available as she needs to go prepare for her date with Shirley's brother the next day. The duo, who are fast growing close, sit in a garden chatting. As they sit with their backs facing each other, Felicia suggests they sit that way on the bare floor until they feel more connected to each other. Subsequently, they travel around and spend lots of time together enjoying each other's company. One day, they pay a visit to Maestro Kusevitsky, who used to be Leonard's teacher and mentor. The old man talks with them over lunch, and he soon starts advising Leonard to throw away the idea of simply being a musical conductor at a theater. But Felicia isn't so pleased with what he's saying. She turns to face Leonard and requests to see all his previous work, which the maestro is advising him to give up on. The duo suddenly sprints out of Maestro Kusevitsky's table. He takes her to watch a performance with dancers moving rhythmically to one of the songs he had composed some time ago. He feels the song isn't too good, but Felicia thinks otherwise. The next day, Felicia wakes up in his arms. He holds his cigar in one hand and Felicia in the other. They chat a little, and Leonard suggests they go on to play a game where they reveal a secret and one thing they envy about each other. He takes the lead by sharing how he had always dreamt of slaying his father when he was much younger, and then he'll wake up fantasizing about it because his father was a very cruel man. The air gets tense for some moments as they both become quiet at Leonard's revelation, but they suddenly start laughing once again. Felicia takes a look at Leonard's eye, and she confesses that he doesn't know how much he needs her. The following day, Leonard brings Felicia to meet his friend David. He introduces them, but he notices the look on David's face. He apologizes for being insensitive, but David asks him not to worry about that. He obliges Leonard's invitation to come have some drinks with them later that night. They exchange pleasantries, and Leonard takes his lady back with him. Afterward, Leonard and Felicia walk through the vineyards. She confesses that she knows exactly who Leonard is, and she's interested in giving things a whirl if he wants to. He kisses her lips and agrees with her. They embrace each other and continue on their path. Leonard and Felicia end up getting married, and the duo lead full professional lives. Leonard is now 37 years old, and ever since he substituted for Bruno, he has been all over the world conducting orchestras and playing the piano. He has written symphonies, ballets, and operas, as well as scores for the Broadway musical Wonderful Town and the motion picture On the Waterfront. Felicia, on the other hand, came to Broadway and American television from Santiago, Chile. She happens to be one of television's first full-fledged drama stars. She's happily married to Leonard. Them and their children Jamie and the 2-month-old Alexander all live in New York City, near Carnegie Hall and Broadway. The family remained in that residence for about 3 years. Leonard and his wife get interviewed on the news station, and he reveals that his primary occupation is music, even though he does other things like conducting, teaching, studying, or even playing. Leonard is all in. On a beautiful afternoon, Leonardo steps out of the house to do some work when he meets David and his wife on the way. They all exchange pleasantries before he reveals he'll be heading downtown. David reveals they are both heading in the same direction, so they decide to go together. He and David walk the distance silently without saying a word to each other until he suddenly stops walking because he feels people are looking at him and they probably think he's not as good looking as he is on screen. David comforts him. Later, Leonard is out on his balcony with his wife, chatting about their 3 children. He confesses that he's sad and he doesn't even know why. He reveals that he doesn't feel his inspiration anymore and he's worried about it. On another day, Felicia and Shirley are chilling and chatting in the garden while the kids are running all around and having fun with Leonard. Shirley talks about the price Felicia needs to pay to be with her brother, but Felicia thinks otherwise. She understands that her husband has his troubles, but she's willing to help him take away his pain and whatever might be bothering him. She intends to do everything possible without any sacrifice, and if there's a must for one, she'll disappear. Later that evening, the couple attend a party and Leonard holds on to Felicia as they all dance. As time goes by, Leonard continues in his career and crowds cheer whenever he performs. Felicia would attend the shows and watch from the curtains while he would take breaks to come kiss her lips. Soon, she starts smoking cigarettes and looks unhappy, but she continues cheering her husband on at every show. Later, they attend a social function and Felicia is away from her husband, which is unlike her. Both of them are at different locations chatting with different people. Her daughter, Jane, comes to seek her permission before going ahead to join a crew, and she gives her blessings to the young girl. She continues chatting with the fellows around her for a while before getting up to go in search of Leonard. Meanwhile, Leonard is having some conversations with a few men when Tommy, a music scholar who is assisting him with research, comes to join them. He asks him to join him outside. Though they don't know each other, he finds the chap quite attractive. The duo walks out but pauses in the hallway, where they soon start kissing, until Felicia walks in on them. She's quite pissed, but she walks away calmly, and Leonard runs after her to find out what the problem could be. She ignores his question and asks him to fix his hair, which is getting sloppy, and then walks away to join the party. Leonard meets with Tom again, and he reveals that he'd like to write a book about him, so the world can know how and who he is outside conducting music and in the media. He has been quite updated about Leonard's journey from the day he received the call to come to conduct the music at Carnegie Hall up until the present. While they are discussing Leonard, he brings up Felicia, and Leonard confesses that he senses that his wife is no longer her usual self, as she seems to have changed immensely. Tom also confesses that she seems crushed now, contrary to when he used to like her. Leonard shares an incident that happened a month before and Felicia's words to him, which made him want to get off the bus and be alone. But that's one of his struggles with being a composer. He's surrounded by people and never really alone. He believes that man is just like a trapped animal who is a victim of his greed and follies. He loves people so much and must force himself to believe that there is a way out in one corner of his soul. An occasion comes up where Leonard is to conduct the singers at a rehearsal. Felicia watches from the seats opposite the stage as her husband conducts the choir to sing beautifully. When he's done, he comes to meet her where she is sitting with an old woman. He gives her accolades for coming up with the Spanish parts of the song when Tom suddenly interferes in the discussion. Felicia gives him a rather unusual stare, as though she's suspecting there's more to the young man. Leonard comes back home with Tom and some other man. Jane watches them from the woods, but refuses to say a word of greeting or call her father's attention towards her direction. Leonard walks into the house, and his other kids come to welcome him. He takes Tom inside to show him some work when Felicia interrupts, asking to speak with him. She reveals that their daughter Jamie has been at Tanglewood, and she's been hearing a lot of gossip about her father. Although she informs the young girl to hear from the horse's mouth, she requests that he be discreet with his dealings, as she doesn't want her daughter getting caught up in all of it. However, Leonard thinks Jane is completely at an age where she deserves to know the truth. Felicia stares at him for a second and warns him to never tell Jane the truth. Leonard steps out a few minutes later to meet Jane. He asks about her trip back home and informs her that Tommy will be spending the weekend with them. He brings up the topic of the rumors she's hearing and claims it must have spurned as a result of jealousy from people who are envious of him and his musical career. He claims such rumors have plagued him all his life and apologizes for letting it plague her now. Jane feels relieved, hearing that the rumors are not true. She believes her father's words and thanks him for coming to talk to her. Later, Leonard and Felicia sit outside the house, discussing the reason he brought Tom home for the weekend, while their children are having a fun time with Tom inside the house. The following day, Leonard spends his time composing a song he's been working on for some time now, which he later announces to his family that he's finally done with, titled Mass. His kids and everyone around cheer in excitement for him, while Felicia runs out of the house. Later that week, the song Leonard composed is being performed at the theater, and he attends the function alongside his wife and Tom. Felicia has a worrisome look on her face, seeing how her husband locks his hands with Tom. Towards the end of the event, whilst Leonard shakes hands with some people, she whispers some words into his ears and walks out of the building. Felicia arrives home and picks a pillow for Leonard, as well as his slipper and toothbrush. She keeps them right outside their room and shuts the door from inside. He gets home later, and Jane explains to him that her sister Nina isn't happy that he missed Thanksgiving, and now she's shouting at some woman. She suggests he go talk to her, but Leonard seems to be engrossed in other things. He gets into their room and confesses that he knew she was pulling some stunts on him when he saw the pillow and other items outside. Felicia quotes a saying in Chile. She thinks it's dramatic that she's been living with a bird that's full of shit when the saying in her culture states that one shouldn't stand under such a bird. They get into a fit of an argument, and she feels so tired of trying to love someone who isn't willing to love or accept himself. She cautions him to be careful, otherwise he's going to perish lonely. Their children come calling, making their voices go quiet. With time, the family starts living separately as Leonard leaves his family to stay with Tom in Northern California. He goes about his usual activities. As he climbs upstage for the Thursday rehearsals, the audience applauds him. He addresses them and continues to do his work, proclaiming that from now on, he's simply going to do what he loves to do. Meanwhile, Felicia is having a performance. Some junior colleagues of hers, Cynthia and Mendy, applaud her and think it is only a matter of time before she takes over the entire production crew. Leonard soon graduates into inhaling hard with Harry and Tommy, who take turns. Later, Leonard puts a call through to his daughter Jane, requesting for all of them to gather at Fairfield, including Tommy. He urges Jamie to nudge her mother to consent to it. Jane, on the other hand, has realized that her father lied to her earlier, and she's not willing to have that discussion with him, so she politely tells him to not bother about it. In the next scene, Felicia is having a conversation with Shirley and Jamie, who informs her that she got a wonderful mention in the New York Times review, and she kept it for her mother, hoping she'll see it. Unfortunately, it makes Felicia uncomfortable. She thanks Jane for the gesture, but she prefers not to see it. Shirley brings up the topic of Felicia's suitor, but Felicia doesn't want to burden her daughter with the topic of her relationships, as she's already had to deal with her father's affairs. She informs her daughter that she has 2 performances on Thanksgiving, so she'll stay at the theater while Jane joins her dad and siblings at the apartment. She explains the need for them to maintain some semblance of normalcy. Jamie feels it's unfair what her mom is trying to do. As soon as she walks away, Shirley brings back the discussion about Felicia's potential suitor. Felicia narrates how she went for lunch with a guy, and she was blushing and having butterflies in her stomach until he leaned over to tell her a secret about his crush on Mendy. The young man requests for her to introduce him to Mendy, and Felicia feels disappointed as it seems she's attracted to a certain type of man. Shirley feels her disappointment and assures Felicia that Leonard loves her very much. Unfortunately, he's just a horribly aging man who cannot just be wholly one thing. Felicia reveals that she has always known who Leonard is. He called her, requesting for all of them to go to Fairfield for 2 weeks, and she sensed that he sounded different. But then she blames herself for being arrogant, for thinking that she could survive on what he could give. Later, Felicia attends a concert in which Leonard is conducting the choir. She watches in awe as he does his job perfectly without flaws. At the end of the event, Leonard leaves the stage to embrace his wife, who showed up without notifying him. He feels emotional as she commends him and briefly kisses her before going back upstage to finish his work. Some days pass, and Leonard follows his wife to the hospital for her medicals. While waiting for the doctor to come attend to them, she reveals that they will be having Betty, Mendy, and a few others around for dinner later tonight. Dr. Kruger walks in to make his diagnosis, and he informs them that Felicia has a tumor on the right side of her left breast, which may have metastasized to the lung. Given the size of the tumor, the doctor recommends that the breast be removed as well as a biopsy of the lung so they can confirm whether there is a spread or not. He assures her that her recovery will be faster than she thinks. Felicia looks tense. She's having a play in a few months, and she isn't sure of how she will be affected. Leonard offers to help her inform the necessary parties of her condition, but he needs assurance that all cancer can be removed. Immediately after the doctor leaves, Felicia breaks down in tears, and he comforts her with an assuring embrace that everything is going to be okay. Later on, he suggests they take the park and walk so she can have some fresh air. They end up sitting on the park's floor like they used to many years ago while they smoke cigarettes. Leonard helps to lighten her mood as he asks her to pick a number like the game they used to play. He understands that she must be going through a lot, so he advises her to throw her weight on him just so she can feel less burdened. Felicia's health condition worsens. As the days go by, she sits in their home looking frail and weak. Mendy and Cynthia come to visit. They spend some time chatting and recalling memories, while Felicia coughs weakly at intervals. While they continue chatting, Leonard quietly comes downstairs and begins to play the piano. Felicia, Mendy, and Cynthia smile hearing him play as the children playfully walk down the hallway like it's a marriage ceremony. The whole family comes around Felicia and gives her a loving hug. She feels so emotional and can't hold back her tears as she lets them fall freely. She doesn't want to see any more visitors and only wants to stay in her bedroom, so Leonard helps her up. He makes a call to Harry to cancel all appointments in his schedule to allow him time to take care of his wife. He feels overwhelmed by Felicia's sickness, but he has to make the sacrifice for his wife. He grabs one of the pillows on the couch and screams into it, allowing his tears to fall freely. Leonard and his children try their best to give Felicia every little support she needs to pull through. She can barely do anything on her own, but she constantly insists she doesn't need any sort of help. The following day, Felicia insists on helping Leonard with his hair while the kids play around. Nina finds an album from when they were kids. She plays it, and the rest of her siblings come to dance to one of their favorite childhood melodies. Leonard stands on his feet, embracing his wife, and calls on their children to come for a group hug. Felicia's health keeps deteriorating, and her skin has turned completely pale. She lies on her bed weakly when Leonard comes to inform her that the doctor is around. Seeing how weak his wife is, he climbs the bed to give her an assuring embrace, holding on to her weak hands. Leonard eventually loses his wife, and he mourns her for a while before moving out of the house with their 3 children. They sell the property and move away from the neighborhood as it reminds them of the memories of the house. Leonard's hair turns gray as he ages, and he resumes his job as a composer, instructor, and conductor of music. He calls William upstage to teach him how to conduct an orchestra, and the young chap performs impressively well. Leonard soon keeps a special relationship with William, as he is still interested in both sexes despite his old age. They spend time together partying and clubbing like lovers would. Leonard Bernstein comes to the end of his story, having given the interviewers full details of his youthful life and how he managed his marriage, children, career, and personal life and struggles up until the present day. After the passing of Felicia, Leonard spends the remaining days of his life doing what he loves best. Certain times come when he misses his dear wife, but he has to carry on with his life. He continued conducting orchestras until the day strength failed him.